Hey guys, so today on my YouTube channel, you're going to be watching me record this week's episode of my podcast, All Things Love and Intimacy. It is available on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. Today, you're going to see this raw, uncut version of me recording behind the scenes. You may see some of my pets in the background, but you're going to watch me on the back end recording, kind of going over my notes, sharing this information with you. And so I just recorded the intro for this podcast episode. This is one of my cats. Her name is Minnie. And we are going to be learning all about the many pieces of the pie when it comes to breaking, understanding, and overcoming sexually avoidant behaviors, sexual withdrawal, low sexual desire, and figuring out how to create more passion, playfulness, and enjoyable sexual experiences. Because that is the way that we rebuild desires, by creating relaxation and pleasure. So bear with me as I start the podcast recording. I am so excited to support you guys. I am a Gottman Level 2 marriage therapist, incorporate emotionally focused couples therapy. I'm a relationship coach, and I help distant couples rebuild emotional intimacy and sexual intimacy. So you and your partner can work with me by heading over to wisdomwithinct.com. That's wisdomwithinct.com. So I'm just going to set up the episode here. All right. So this also is related to a new page I wrote on my website. So you can find kind of like a written version of this online. Today, we are going to be talking all about sexual avoidance, sexual withdrawal, and the loneliness that this can cause, as well as ways to overcome this cycle as a couple, rebuild desire, better understand libido, and really start to overcome some of these deep, emotionally painful challenges. So when we are in a frustrating sexual cycle, you might not be getting the physical touch or love that you want or that you feel you need. You may be wishing you had more frequent sex or more affectionate touch. You may also wish your partner saw you as sexy, attractive, or you felt desired by them. When you are struggling in a sexually avoidant cycle, you may also be wishing you had more playfulness, more lighthearted, tension-free moments, and also a general sense of silliness or just in the moment, present moment, intentional connection. Right now, when you're stuck in this really emotionally charged cycle regarding sex, it might trigger a lot of anxiety and conflict when you and your partner discuss sexual activities, sexual needs, kinks, desires, fetishes, expectations, anything you'd like to try sexually. It immediately starts a conflict where one of you might get a little angry or tense, and maybe the other one gets really tearful and anxious. So when you do try to talk about sex or your sex life, it's really emotionally charged right now. And you both want to work together to really understand what's underneath the cycle of avoidance, rejection, and disconnection. So there's this deep desire and willingness to break this cycle as a team and really better understand what each other needs to feel loved. As well, when we look at sexual avoidance or sexual withdrawal or low libido or what's going on here, we have to look at past experiences of religious trauma. So if you or your partner experienced an upbringing where there was conservative views or there were messages of purity culture, or you were told to abstain from sex until marriage, or you had any sort of religious or conservative strict upbringing influencing you, that can lead to shame, guilt, and fear around expressing your sexuality. So that shame and guilt can actually be a huge, like a bouncer if we're trying to if we're not allowed to get through. So there's a blockage there. And so when you are in a sexually avoidant relationship, you may also find yourself in what we call a sexless marriage. So a marriage where you are connected on a legal way, you might be living together, parenting together, growing a business together, whatever it may be, but you are missing out on the physically intimate or the sexual erotic elements of that connection. So you may be super awesome in your companionship mode, which is great. That's a great resource. but you may find yourselves in a sexless marriage, which is where you have sex less than once every 6 months. So if you had sex less than 2 times this past year, you may be in a sexless marriage. So we can talk about better communication skills. We can talk about those emotions of feeling rejected, and really what's underneath this avoidance. Because sometimes when we're avoiding something, it's because it brings us so much overwhelming anxiety to deal with. So I give you and your partner in relationship coaching, or in the sessions that we have together, a safe place to slow down and really unpack what is triggering those overwhelming emotions. So I use Gottman marriage methods. I'm a level 2 Gottman trained professional, certified sex therapy informed professional, and I specialize with distant couples. So this is an area that I love supporting couples in growing. So think of your marriage as a garden bed. You know, we need sunshine, we need water, we need really good soil, fertilizer, nutrients, and all of those things have to be there to allow the plants to grow. And the plants that you're growing are emotional connection as well as sexual connection. And so we need to think about this holistically. Let's see. So one of the first pieces when we look at being in a sexless marriage is just understanding the signs. So you're having very infrequent or no sexual activity, and this is causing significant distress. One or both of you may really deeply feel loved, connected, and close through physical touch. And maybe at one time you did have really beautiful sexual moments, or maybe you've always had infrequent or challenging sexual moments. And either way, it's totally possible to address these issues, and there is hope for you. Another sign that you are in a sexless marriage is there is a lack of physical affection, meaning there's not just, we're not having penetrative sex or we're not having oral sex, we're also not hugging, we're not kissing, we're not holding hands anymore, and we're no longer cuddling. We're no longer taking part in some of these really sweet, romantic, affectionate behaviors. And that is an underlying sign that we do need attention and professional help when it comes to rebuilding affection, because affection is super important. We need to be touched. Another reason that you may be in a sexless marriage, another sign, is that you avoid talking about sexual topics. So if you're watching a TV show or watching a movie and there's a sex scene, you kind of feel awkward, you feel shameful, you look the other way. If your partner wants to talk about sex, or maybe sex is coming up as a topic in your friend group when you're out, you kind of shy away. You don't talk about it. You don't add anything to the conversation. You're feeling really insecure and timid. Talking about sex, reading about sex, reading a book where there's a sex scene makes you really uncomfortable. And there may be some tension and resistance. And this lack of communication regarding sex is contributing to the sexless marriage cycle. So I give you a safe place to better understand your own needs, your partner's needs, talk about your desires, and understand your partner's desires. And so really talking about sex can eventually become something comfortable and familiar through the process of relationship coaching. Now, another aspect of being in a sexless marriage is a deep feeling where one or both of you are feeling very, very lonely, very, very rejected, deeply pained by this experience. So it's one person is feeling unloved. That's a really deep core emotion. That rejection, abandoned, ignored, insignificant, undesired due to the lack of sexual intimacy. And these negative emotions are major, major problems. So it's the negative emotions that come from not being touched, feeling so unwanted, feeling self-conscious, wondering and developing suspicions, feeling skeptical, feeling insecure about the relationship, that then create more distance. As well, being in a sexless marriage does lead to distance. So we need both emotional connection and physical connection from a significant other in order to feel close, to feel bonded, to feel secure, to feel like we're on the same team, we're united, there's this sense of togetherness. We need both of those things. And so when we're missing the erotic, sexual, and physical connection, that we so often think of when we think of married life. There are feelings of loneliness, dissatisfaction, deep feelings of being insignificant. It's just this sadness. It can be very hurtful, and a feeling of alienation. So in relationship sessions with me, you can develop more trust, improve your emotional expression, increase connection and passion by understanding both the emotional and the sexual sides. So you don't have to avoid sex because it feels overwhelming or you're afraid of rejection. You guys can really work together to build a strong, healthy, safe couple bubble. So one really big piece, the first piece that I want to talk about when it comes to understanding the many pieces here of this puzzle, of this pie, when it comes to sexual withdrawal, lack of erotic connection, physical intimacy has gone out the window, and we just don't know why. We're going to start to figure out why. And one of the reasons, the why, could be because we are stuck in a mentally stressed life. We are feeling overly responsible. You may be stuck in parent mode. There may be a to-do list mindset that hinders sexual desire. And this not only prevents you from bringing a present mind, like an intentionally here in the moment mind to the relationship, but this mental stress and this mental load prevents you from viewing yourself as a being that deserves sexual pleasure, as an attractive being, as a sexy being, as deserving of, feeling good, experiencing orgasms. So it's very easy to find you and your partner buried under a mountain of responsibilities. Life is a whirlwind. You may be struggling with household chores, navigating like loved ones who are sick, planning birthday parties, and being in this go, go, go mode, this gotta mind, gotta do this, gotta do that, gotta finish this. That can be so overwhelming, and it can lead to irritability, annoyance, feeling like your fuse is about to blow, like you're bottling up all this tension. And feeling overly responsible can be a self-sabotaging cycle. It's relentless sometimes. There's always going to be something to fix, something to do, whether it's going to the grocery store or doing laundry. And so this mindset or feeling overwhelmed mentally leaves very little room for spontaneity or relaxation. And spontaneity and relaxation are crucial ingredients for rebuilding sexual desire. So if we're looking about how to prepare the mind to feel sexually aroused, we can't just jump right into sexual energy. We have to start with relaxation and a calm nervous system. So, and especially if your mind is preoccupied, it's very hard to be in the here and now. You're thinking about the past, or you're thinking about the anticipation and excitement of the future, planning, which can be good, but we really want to slow down and really, really start to bring and hone in that energy on strengthening the couple bubble, which means putting you and your partner's relationship first, rather than getting stressed about what you need to do for others or how the family picture should look, or you really need to bring it back and release stress. So a big piece of this is reducing the mental load in order to build sexual desire. Sometimes we are not actually conscious that we even have a mental load. And so I wanted to take a moment to just bring to light some of the things that may be on your mind that we can start to unload. So by identifying this mental strain, you and your partner can delegate these tasks to other people. You can share them as a team, and you can start to bring your attention back into the present moment and your body. So we may be planning meals, grocery shopping, cleaning, making beds, dealing with family members, in-laws, planning birthdays, anniversaries, going to school functions. We may also be dealing with our own chronic illnesses or a child's new diagnosis, various healthcare needs, picking up prescriptions, going to doctor's appointments. There may also be religious loads, going to church, taking a responsibility, bringing the coffee. There may be elements that create limiting factors when it comes to a frequent, regular, playful sex life. And so what we want to do is start talking about these as a team and confiding in each other. And relationship sessions with me can be a great space to start to unload mentally, which creates a sense of closeness and deeper trust. Number 2, when it comes to really understanding sexual avoidance, low sexual desire, challenges with bringing physical intimacy into your marriage, is really understanding how sexual performance anxiety can be a culprit. So anxiety is going to be a blocker here. And when we think about intimacy, intimacy is a very vulnerable experience. Emotional intimacy means telling your partner your deepest worries, taking that risk, sharing with your partner what you're going through emotionally. And physical intimacy means being naked, showing someone your body. Maybe parts of your body, look different than they did 20, 30, 40 years ago. And that's okay. So we want to embrace that vulnerability. But anxiety about sexual performance, about your body smell, you might be feeling insecure about the smell of your penis, the smell of your vulva, the smell of your body, the smell of your breath, the look of your hips, the look of your belly, how you will be perceived. There's a lot of insecurity around body odor that can come up, that can create a barrier to sexual fulfillment. So you might have faced rejection or criticism from a partner in the past that has led you to avoid intimate activities. So I see this a lot where we say, oh no, I don't want you to give me oral sex, or I don't want to give oral sex because of the smell, right? And sometimes there's a sensory piece, but a lot of times it's because people are self-conscious, like, oh, I smell bad, I don't want to receive oral sex. Or, there's this need to embrace your body, the shape of your body, your weight, the smell of your natural bodily areas with confidence. Of course, we're practicing good hygiene, we're showering regularly, but a lot of times we're given advertisements by the media and marketing scams, especially towards the female body, to make the vulva area smell different than it naturally does. And your vulva, your vaginal area is self-cleaning. And so you don't need to use any harsh perfumes or any scented products. It's about embracing that organic scent and knowing that your body is incredibly healthy. It is a magical area. In that vaginal fluid that develops during arousal is an amazing, it's like loaded with pheromones. It can turn your partner on. It can bring your partner great pleasure to give you oral sex or to see you experience pleasure. So don't be self-conscious about your body odor, vulva smell, penis smell. And if you notice these thoughts being intrusive, it can prevent you from being mentally present. This can be one of the root issues when it comes to understanding the cycle of sexual rejection and truly addressing these deeper causes. Sometimes too, a penis owner or a male partner will feel like he has to have a hard penis. And so the sexual performance anxiety can actually prevent enjoying amazing pleasure. We don't need a hard penis to be a good lover. It's okay for a penis to be soft, right? There's so many other ways to offer pleasure. And so we tend to get really insecure. And I want to support you in shifting into being more confident and comfortable in your body when it comes to fully enjoying and creating more intimate moments. You don't have to change yourself in any way. You don't have to get lip filler. You don't have to get Botox or plastic surgery. You don't have to spend hours in the gym. You don't have to do anything to change who you are exactly right now. Of course, practice good self-care, exercise, take good care of your physical body so you can live a long and healthy life and feel good in your skin. But you really want to let out your authentic sexual self. And this means recognizing that you are worthy of pleasure and viewing yourself as a sexual being. Like sometimes we get so stuck in, let's say, parenting mode. You have a child on your hip all the time, or you have a baby in a baby carrier, you're baby wearing, or you're breastfeeding, or you're caring physically for a toddler that is on your body all the time. So your body is in caretaking mode. And this is true for all genders. And then to shift from that hat of being a parent to a sexual being does mean viewing yourself and viewing your body as an amazing, a landscape for pleasure and orgasming. So creating a deeper, more fulfilling sexual connection with your partner is about embracing your body, shape, weight, and scent right here and now. Another piece to sexual desire, feeling close sexually, libido, and breaking the cycle of sexual avoidance is understanding emotional connection. So in a marriage, we oftentimes get very to-do list oriented, or we get very managerial. So you and your partner may be awesome at, connecting regarding your finances, or both paying your bills together. And that's awesome. But we also really need to find ways to emotionally support each other during challenging times. So if there's loss, grief, or stress, it's really important to have dedicated time to process that emotional experience together. So let's say one partner is saying, I'm feeling really unheard, I'm feeling ignored and upset. Their partner, should really step into a place of support and validation rather than just dismissing them, rather than walking out of the room or not talking at all because they don't know what to say. This is about deepening your emotional connection to support sexual arousal. So emotional bonding and emotional security is an absolute necessary ingredient. We're making some brownies, and this is the chocolate making the brownies. We need emotional expression, and a lot of times we don't learn how to do that when we grow up in childhood trauma, or when we're just hustling and bustling around in life. We don't take the time to slow down and carve out time to just really understand emotional communication. So you may find yourselves really focusing on fact-based or goal-oriented discussions, being very practical, rather than delving into the emotional experience and sharing your feelings. But sharing your feelings is a beautiful practice because you can identify what you're feeling, you can understand what your partner is feeling, you can create a beautiful, amazing picture of shared meaning and shared connection. And this reignites the spark. This helps your partner feel important, significant, loved, and special. And that supports safety and relaxation. Relaxation is a precursor to sexual arousal. Another piece here is, on the note of emotional expression, is really understanding what patterns in your generational legacy you want to keep and which ones you want to discard. So sometimes we grow up in a cycle where we've had parents that aren't affectionate. We've had parents or caregivers that belittle us or criticize us, or don't show, I don't say I love you, don't hold hands. And so we want to really develop emotional intelligence, and know that your past does not dictate your future. You can gain awareness for dysfunctional relational patterns that may no longer be serving you. And you and your partner can build emotional security by consciously choosing healthy relational patterns. So building a secure bond is one of the key pieces on an emotional level to break the cycle of sexual rejection. We have to really understand how important it is to talk about generational patterns. Hey, I saw my mom do this, or hey, when my mom did this, I actually didn't feel so good, but I'm noticing that I'm doing that right now. And I want to become more conscious and develop a stronger partnership with you, but it means kind of learning that I don't really like how this felt growing up, and I don't want to keep doing it anymore. That's a beautiful thing to start to deepen your marriage. Now, another aspect here of this pie that we have, can be any type of pie, but a piece of this element holistically here is understanding sex positive education. And step one within sex positive education is to create pleasure. So for females, for vulva owners, pleasure is really important in all types of touch and sexual experiences in order to want to do it again. So if you are experiencing pain, sex is dull, it's boring, it's an obligation, there's chafing, there's burning, we're not going to want to do it again. That's a normal response to stress. It's not a stress relieving experience, it's instead very stressful. So it's really important to understand that women and vulva owners need 45 to 90 minutes of foreplay, which is the core of all sexual activity and sexual experiences, whereas men or penis owners only need 4 to 8 minutes of foreplay. So when a female's body or a vulva owner's body is not properly warmed up, there's not adequate time for clitoral engorgement, blood flow cannot go to the genitals, there's just not enough time. Penetrative sex, or even touching the vaginal area, the vulva, is incredibly unpleasant. Sex burns, it can be painful, there can be this grin and bear it mindset. So part of what we need to do is make sex fun, enjoyable, and pleasurable. And sexual touch, it could be a back massage, right? That could be fun, enjoyable, and pleasurable. But a big piece is lengthening foreplay, because pornography does not show us adequate foreplay. So I want your foreplay, the time that from you massaging or kissing, to be minimum 45 to 90 minutes. And really recognize that this is a time to play. This is your playground. This is, if you're a male partner or female partner, you have a female body in front of you, you're going to explore that female body. This is going to build excitement. The female orgasmic system needs time to experience anticipation, relaxation, and playfulness. And when there's that association of these activities being pleasurable, it means there's no rush for anything to have to come. And this is a beautiful thing. A lot of times, from pornography, we often see male-centered or penis-focused or male pleasure-oriented activities. And so women are often told in their heads, like from culture and society, oh, I have to give. So part of this foreplay process is reassuring your female partner you get to let go and don't touch my body. You're not giving right now. You are to receive, and really shifting into that mindset for a female. I'm receiving. I don't have to give. I can let go. That's a huge piece of building excitement. So a female partner may reject her partner and avoid having sex because it does not feel pleasurable, because there is not, it's not focused about her pleasure. It's just focused on the male penis and him having an ejaculation. And so we really need to have an understanding of this arousal difference between genders. So a person with a vulva does need that 45 to 90 minutes of gentle caressing, erogenous zone exploration, and really understand that to have a sex positive environment and culture in your marriage, we do need to understand the needs of the female body and of vulva owners. And this 45 to 90 minutes of foreplay supports a female partner in feeling wanted, sexy, desired, and allows time for embodiment, which means the mind and the body catch up to each other. So relationship sessions can give you both a safe place to really understand these needs and really talk about what we can do, what a female partner likes, and build that association of pleasure and enjoyment. That is so key. So when we have more support around foreplay, it really allows for playfulness. It allows for a supportive environment. It allows for talking about desires. There's more communication. There's just no agenda. We're letting go of the agenda having to be penetrative sex. We want to take the focus off penetrative sex. We're not thinking about penis and vagina. We're just thinking about exploring the foreplay experience. And that supports the needs of the female body and allows pleasure to unfurl like petals in bloom, right? We do not want to think about sex as a hurried encounter, as what it was, some couples I work with, they're so funny. They're like, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. We don't want that. Do not do the wham, bam, thank you, ma'am business. I want you to think about your touches being slow, luxurious. Like there's this beautiful realm of possibility, and time slows down, chaos slows down, and there's this unfurling of pleasure. And I offer you sex positive education on foreplay and relationship sessions, but this really is an exploration of the erogenous zones through gentle, lingering, slow, exciting touch. So when we think about foreplay, sometimes if sex has been 5 minutes, right, and we're looking at lengthening it, 45 to 90 minutes, you're like, hey, what do I do? What can I do for that time to support my female partner or my partner who has a vulva? So I want you to think about pleasure-oriented foreplay. Foreplay is not a highway to get somewhere. Foreplay could just be the entire sexual experience, right? We don't have to go anywhere else. But I want you to set the scene. I want you to create a romantic atmosphere, something that's, the lighting is dim, soft music is playing. You might, light a candle or have a massage oil. If you're doing a massage, I highly recommend a lotion or an oil. It just makes it feel so much more smooth on the skin. You can also communicate during foreplay. I feel your fingertips caressing my forearm. I love being the little spoon. I can feel your belly on my back. I really enjoy how close we are right now. Talk about what feels good to you. Kissing you just feels so incredible. You're such an amazing kisser. I love the feeling, the connection of your tongue on my tongue, right? Like it feels so good when you gently run your fingers through my hair as we're sitting here. Right? Talk about what feels good, your desires, your fantasies, boundaries, preferences. Like open that conversation. Like if you want your partner to talk dirty to you during foreplay, you can say, hey, like I would love for you to talk to me. And they may need some direction on what you want to hear, but that is a beautiful way to open up communication. During foreplay, I want you to resist the urge to rush, right? Pornography says, do this in 5 minutes. When we masturbate, oftentimes we're taught to do it as quick as possible because it's a taboo thing. We don't want a parent to walk in on us when we're masturbating, so we do it super quick. So essentially, we have to resist those urges, those anxieties to rush right through foreplay to what some may think penetrative sex is coming next. And I want you to take that off the table. I just want you to savor each moment. Imagine a delicious chocolate, just like a piece of chocolate melting in your mouth. It takes time for your mouth to melt that piece of chocolate. So think about that luxurious energy through gentle caresses, kisses, and just seeing how your touch turns your partner on. And if it doesn't, then, talk with them. Be like, where would you like for me to touch your body? Feel the sensations. Allow your mind to be completely in your body and sense this amazing developing sexual connection between you and your partner. Now, we also need to understand erogenous zones. There are specific areas of the body that are incredibly sensitive to touch. And we need to really pay attention to your, these reactions. You might get, a sound might come out of your partner. Their eyes might roll a little bit. You might be kissing their neck or sucking on their earlobe or sucking on their nipples, and you might be able to get a really amazing reaction that lets you know that you're doing a great job. So see where on your partner's body they like to be touched and do more of what they like. So play around with different types of touch. There might be different pressure, different types of strokes, diagonal, straight, circular, using the fingertips, using fingernails, kisses, nibbles. They're all different types of touch that you can, see and pay attention to how your partner responds. So tease and tantalize. I want you to think about foreplay as like a teasing experience. Make it fun. Make it something where your partner really wants it. Think about foreplay as this time that promotes connection through touch and bonding through touch, that arousal naturally will increase as a byproduct of this sense of intentional presence And the foreplay that you're offering and together you're creating in this positive feedback loop, it leaves you both yearning for more. Like, you want more. You're like, I really enjoy this type of erotic connection with you. Like, I want more of this. So experiment with different speeds of touch, different types of pressure, and different patterns. Play around. Let your partner's body be a canvas. Explore and embrace the sensual side. This gives you permission to step outside of all of the other roles and the hats you have to wear in daily life. This is an incredible experience. Just enjoy intimacy together and deepen your connection. You can also embrace different types of sensual activity. So taking a bath together, showering together, mutual massage, taking a 1 hour per week and massaging each other's bodies. One person gives, one person receives, and then you switch. Talk about sexual fantasies. I want you to think about longer foreplay, more pleasure-oriented foreplay, exploring the erogenous zones, gentle lingering touch. We are not having to go anywhere or get anywhere or do anything. There's no outcome. So just being in the moment, creating more anticipation, and then let that anticipation build, and then we'll just see what's a byproduct of that, which is often sexual arousal and orgasm, right? So I also want to switch gears slightly and move on to our next aspect of understanding sexual rejection cycles, rebuilding libido, and understanding sexual desire, which is understanding the influence of a pornography addiction. Now, pornography is not educational. Pornography is arousing, so you might watch it and your mirror neurons in your brain say, oh, okay, this person feels really good. What would this, you imagine what it feels like on your body, or you imagine, being in that scenario and you start to get aroused, or you see something arousing and turns you on. But pornography does not show real life partner sex, so it is not comparable to what you can do or experience in the real life. But pornography addiction or compulsive pornography usage, overuse of pornography, will lead to a disinterest in real life partner sex, leading to sexual avoidance and sexual issues like pornography-induced erectile dysfunction. And females, vulva owners who watch pornography compulsively can also develop desire issues with a real life partner. But for right now, we are just focusing on pornography-induced erectile dysfunction. When you compulsively watch pornography, and pornography is the primary source of sexual arousal, it can lead to erectile dysfunction. It can make it almost impossible to become sexually aroused, physically aroused, interested in real life partner sex. So you may start to become disconnected to your partner. And also, too, there can be this anxiety with a real life partner because you've conditioned yourself to only be aroused from porn. So it's much easier to self-isolate, take the easy way out, and not have to read a partner's emotions in a sexual experience, not have to deal with giving, right? You're just focusing on yourself when you're watching pornography. As well, when we have a pornography issue or compulsive pornography addiction, it's very common for people to hide their habits. So like you might be in a cycle of guilt, shame, and secrecy, keeping your pornography use a secret from your partner because you feel guilty about watching it, and it creates and perpetuates these feelings of anxiety around sex, loneliness, isolation, and what we need to do is really just talk openly about pornography use, right? So it's not good or bad. We're just going to talk about the emotions around it. Like maybe you and your partner want to watch pornography together and it can be a part of an erotic experience. But when you're isolating, when you're pulling away, it's actually detracting from intimacy together. And you're like relying so heavily on pornography to get off. It can lead to anxiety, depression, insecurity, self-esteem issues. There may even be like past trauma around pornography use. So we need to just talk about it and understand that it can lead to sexual disconnection. There can be the cycle of sexual avoidance as a result. And Sometimes too, as a result of pornography use and sometimes from other reasons, we can often feel like sex becomes this really emotionally charged subject. So this is like another piece of the pie. But when we think about talking about sex, there's this rush of anxiety. It's like all of these thoughts come, these really negative thoughts. Will I stay hard? Should I be giving more? How can I make my partner orgasm? Like, it's not your responsibility to make your partner orgasm. You can be a generous partner and support them in orgasming, give them time to orgasm, but saying, how can I make them orgasm? Like, it almost feels like a checkbox that we have to check off, and that's not really a good mindset. Will I be able to orgasm? Will I make my partner feel bad if I don't orgasm? Should I fake an orgasm? What if this isn't a successful sexual experience? Am I a good lover? Will I be able to satisfy my partner? Like, all of these things come up, and I want to normalize them because just want to realize that these things are normal. It's part of the human experience, and we can start to understand them, and I can give you a safe place to talk about all of these kind of anxiety-oriented thoughts and performance-oriented thoughts. So one way that you can start breaking the cycle of your sexless marriage is exploring diverse forms of touch. This means long hugs, holding hands, showering and taking baths together, and knowing that these don't have to lead to sex, but they will lead to bonding. And bonding is directly from the hormone and the brain chemical oxytocin. Oxytocin is your love hormone. It is directly from affectionate touch, and it is a wonderful thing because it helps to relieve pain in the body. It is a great way to connect, and it's your bonding hormone. So the more oxytocin that you release directly from long hugs, holding hands, affectionate, soft touches, the more that will improve and strengthen your bond. So in addition to wanting to have a better sex life, I want you both to think about ways you can incorporate and see the benefits of non-sexual touch. So touch that does not necessarily lead to sex. You know, if we're starting to hold hands and there's this pressure and performance anxiety to like have penetrative sex, it takes all the fun out of things. So for a deeper sexual connection and to open up sexually, I want you to think about just these forms of diverse touch. And this helps to relieve pressure and tension. And if you don't have these right now, these are some examples. So you may, want to have a beautiful, gentle caress as you pass each other in the hallway, rather than just walking by each other like two ships in the night, barely even acknowledging each other. You may also want to have a lingering hug. So when I say lingering, I mean like 2 to 3 minute hug before you go to bed. So like, you've brushed your teeth, you're intentionally, purposefully hugging each other. There's this amazing connecting experience. And this supports touch as a way to reaffirm your love and commitment for each other. Another aspect and another piece of the pie when it comes to a sexless marriage, struggling with libido, trying to figure out those root causes to sexual avoidance, is understanding emotional communication. So Dr. John and Julie Gottman, they are renowned relationship experts. I am trained in the Gottman method. I'm a level 2 Gottman marriage specialist. But they talk about these 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. So criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. And so these will affect your sex life. They really negatively impact safety, emotional safety, which then impacts your sex life. So criticism is attacking your partner's character or really belittling something related to their personality. Contempt, it is like completely disrespectful, and it's rooted in resentment. Defensiveness occurs when you deny responsibility. So in every argument and every misunderstanding, both people have to take responsibility. You don't have to blame yourself, but you have to say, hey, It's my part. I could have really communicated that more clearly. Or I could have definitely been kinder to you and said that without being so short, right? So take ownership. Stonewalling is that emotional withdrawal or the silent treatment, and it can also be seen as shutting someone out emotionally, which is a very painful experience. And these are barriers to emotional connection and barriers to sexual intimacy. So sometimes we don't even know we're doing these, so we're identifying them now. And sometimes we've seen parents and caregivers do these to us. And so these are part of that negative, dysfunctional generational pattern that we want to break. And a lot of times these come out when in a state of fight, flight, or freeze. So when you both are emotionally dysregulated, emotionally triggered. And so relationship sessions can help you have a more constructive dialogue. You can start to learn how to be open, accessible, and receptive. This means being receptive to your partner's concerns, your partner's emotions, if they're unhappy, making that matter to you, and really understanding how this emotional process plays into sexual avoidance. Because, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling, hinder a strong sexual connection. It's really important for deepening sexual intimacy to deepen emotional trust and deepen communication and that connection with your partner. So that's a really big piece. If you need help understanding Gottman's 4 horsemen and how to, put those horses in their stalls or replace those horsemen with more positive communication, I would love to support you and your partner. Now, another piece of this pie, when we're looking at libido, sexuality, sexual expression, shifting into our sexual self, and building a healthy sex life, is understanding the impact of a strict conservative religious upbringing. So you may be getting stuck in a cycle of sexual avoidance and sexual withdrawal because you have been raised in a strict conservative abstinence-based culture or purity culture that was very religious. And it can be very challenging to get into a sexy mindset or let your sexual self out because you feel like that part of you is bad, that it's evil, that you're sinning, there's shame, there's guilt, and there's anxiety based on these purity culture teachings and abstinence culture teachings that damage your own relationship with your sexual self. So religious trauma is a huge piece of this. You don't necessarily have to have had extreme religious trauma, but having any sort of messaging around purity culture that you have to stay pure until marriage, or, don't have sex, don't masturbate, only have sex for procreation. These lead to sexual shame and guilt. And these messages and fear-based messages are internalized from a young age. And it can be sex can be, and letting your sexual self out can be an incredibly anxiety-provoking experience. So I give you a safe place to start really talking about this, gaining awareness about it, and starting to shift into sexual confidence. So some elements of these fear-based messages can seep into your mind. When you're a young child, when you're an adolescent, you are very impressionable. Excuse me. Forgot the YouTube recording was on for a minute. Okay. Cut that out of the podcast. Fear-based misinformation due to religious trauma can have massive impacts on you in your adolescence, and these can last deeply into adulthood. So you may have received messages that your organic sexual desires or your sexual urges were bad, that any sort of sexual behavior goes along with sin and immorality, that you would be impure if you had any sort of sexual thoughts, and that the only sexual expression that is acceptable is only a heterosexual marriage. So if you're gay, if you're bisexual, if you're pansexual, if you're queer, if you just want to explore, it's immediately shame, guilt, you're outside the norm, there's punishment, there's damnation, God won't accept you, you'll go to hell. All of this is deep-seated shame. So I really just want to bring awareness to that, and that can impact, even when we're in a healthy, loving marriage, it can definitely impact things. As well, religious teachings also lead to a lack of sex education. So a lot of times, women are told to be pure until their wedding day, and then they're just not taught about their own bodies. They're taught to just accept the type of sex their partner wants and have no voice. As well, there is fear-inducing narratives about the consequences of pushing back on any of these teachings. And there's this existential dread. It can be incredibly challenging. Women are taught especially to be submissive and obedient to men when they have a husband. If they don't put out or give sex, which is their duty in a religious culture, to keep their husband happy, and then their husband cheats, it's their fault. So women are told that sex is their obligation. There are different religious, teachers that really blame women for experiencing sexual trauma. It's very, very challenging. Sometimes too, in a strict religious upbringing, children and teenagers are not given counseling. They're told to talk with a priest or talk with a pastor, but they're never given access to a licensed mental health professional, which is very different than talking with a priest or a pastor. So a lot of times in a strict religious or conservative purity culture, any sort of mental challenge is just dealt with within that religious community versus that child being given evidence-based medical care. So it can be very challenging, especially when there is sexual trauma. Children and adolescents are not given that care, which can lead to more, deterioration of mental well-being. As well, in a strict conservative purity culture, we don't get scientific or medical-based sex education. We get taught maybe that evolution isn't real, or we're not really taught evidence-based perspectives. So I just want to open up the conversation on this topic and just start to plant the seed that being raised in a strict conservative and religious upbringing that focuses on abstinence until marriage, purity culture, does lead to sexual shame, fear, playing small, not having a voice, can lead to painful sex, self-censorship, self-doubt. So all of these things can play a role when we're like, how do we have a healthy sex life? It means embodying an authentic relationship with yourself and really knowing what your body likes. So it's okay to masturbate, but there may be shame, guilt, anxiety, and all of these beliefs that you were raised with that come up that prevent you from enjoying pleasure when you masturbate, for instance. So it can be essential to start to open up this amazing, healthy conversation. Oh, okay, let's see. I'm having a little podcast issue. So I'm not tech savvy, but let's see. All right. All right. For those of you on my YouTube channel, you are getting the raw version of this. Okay, so this next piece doesn't apply to all couples, but it does apply to some. And so I want to talk about this for a moment. So I am an LGBTQIA plus affirming therapist. This means I work with monogamous couples, I work with couples that are opening their relationship or have an open relationship dynamic. So I want to take a minute to just talk about that. So in our sessions together, our relationship counseling or coaching sessions, you can talk about kinks. You can talk about your sexuality. You can talk about going to sex clubs, whatever you want to do. I support you in building respectful, consensual, and pleasurable, clearly communicated sexual relationships. So sometimes couples who are monogamous or started off in a monogamous way open their relationships. So this means maybe you're swinging, maybe you're dating other couples, maybe you're dating separately, living a polyamorous lifestyle, ethically non-monogamy, really opening your marriage in some way, right? And so this can impact your sex life as a couple. So this can trigger, like, let's say you have a threesome and you have a third party come into your sexual experience. There may be a conflict or there may be a feeling of jealousy, and that impacts your sex life together. One of you may start to feel inferior to your partner's partner. You know, you may have a kink or fantasy you want to try, but your partner doesn't want to do it. So you open your marriage to explore that kink, but then now your partner's feeling abandonment or a fear of abandonment. Like you're going to leave them because this other person is super into that kink and you're not. So like all this stuff can come up. And, you know, open marriages can be incredibly successful. Monogamous marriages can be incredibly successful. There's no one right or wrong way to go about it. It's about you and your partner communicating, being on the same page, and going slow, no matter what you're doing. But yes, so when we open a marriage or we explore different sexual dynamics with other people, there can be feelings of jealousy, insecurity, and uncertainty that come up, especially in this non-monogamous realm. There can be feelings of like, am I still special to you? Do I still matter? Like, am I still your special person now that you're having sex with other people? How do we navigate these complexities and really talk about the emotions in the open relationship? You know, what happens if one of you doesn't like the person that your partner has chosen to date? You know, is there a vetting process? Is there an approval process? Is there a veto situation going on? So that is something that is really important to talk about when it comes to exploring open relationships. Generally speaking, we've gone over a lot of things today, a lot of pieces of the pie, and it's been so fun to talk about this and share this with you. But I hope that you can feel more comfortable talking about your sex life from this podcast and more comfortable exploring your sexuality. When it comes to breaking cycles of sexual avoidance, low libido, disinterest in touch, disinterest in sex, there are many holistic aspects, right? When you're in a cycle of sexual avoidance, you want more sex, you feel lonely. You feel depressed, confused, self-conscious, low in self-esteem. You feel anxious about your marital bond. You feel insecure, rejected. You may wonder if you want more sex and your partner doesn't. Does my partner still find me sexy? Do they still find me attractive? Parts of you wonder what's going on, and you deeply love each other and you want to build both emotional intimacy and sexual intimacy. It can be really difficult and painful to feel cast aside, ignored, or unwanted. And if your partner has a lower sex drive than you, it can feel really challenging for them. Like they might feel inadequate. They might feel overwhelmed. They might be afraid that you're going to go leave them if they don't put out, right? Like there's just so much to unpack. Sex can lead to arguments when there are mismatches in desire. So I specialize with couples, especially distant couples, who feel super awesome, let's say career-wise, or super awesome parenting together. Or you guys are awesome companions and run a home like rock stars. But when it comes to building emotional vulnerability and emotional security, you need help. And when it comes to talking about sexual desire, fantasies, and improving sexual intimacy, you need help too. I am a Gottman Level 2 marriage specialist, certified sex therapy informed professional, emotionally focused couples therapy inspired, and I am licensed as a marriage and family therapist in many states. I am a relationship coach for couples who are stuck in a sexually avoidant or low sex drive cycle. And it's painful. It's upsetting. You want to feel closer. You want to feel excited. You want to have that sexual passion and spark back. And I would love to help you talk about all things related to sex, your sexuality, sexual expectations, libido, and create a strong, emotionally expressive, emotionally vulnerable foundation as a launching pad to be able to build that amazing sex life that is very pleasure oriented. So if you're looking to get in contact with me, you can book your free phone consultation to work with me at wisdomwithinct.com. That's wisdomwithinct.com. And you can find this podcast episode, my podcast, All Things Love and Intimacy, on Spotify and on Apple.